Well, there we are, looking back on a pretty poor start to the season. Sheffield United losing 1-0 at home to Crystal Palace, and there's many mitigating circumstances and factors which we will get into. Of course, we want your thoughts as well. Pop them, please, in the comments at any point that you're watching this video. My name is Hal. I'm not going to be doing this alone. If you're watching live, you're welcome to join us, but also I'm going to bring in Jono, who is a Blades fan that was at the game. Jono, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm all right. I would have loved a win. I would have loved to be talking about getting 3 points in a match that, when you look at all the fixtures in a 38-game Premier League season, you try and pick the ones where you can maybe get a point or 3 points.
100%.
For the kind of shenanigans, let's call them that, of pre-season, I'd probably have looked at Palace at home and said, that's one we can maybe get some points from. What do you think?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think when the fixture list come out, looking at where we were at the time with the players that we had then, I think you're right. I think everyone would have been looking at starting the season strong, getting some points on the board, but shenanigans, as you called it, kind of took that opportunity away, I think.
Yeah, 1-0, the Palace result. I mean, it's one of those that's still hanging over me. The biggest attacking threat was probably Max Lowe on Roy Hodgson. I mean, would Sheffield United's first choice side last season have beaten that Palace team?
It would have certainly tested them a hell of a lot more. To be honest, I think it would. I mean, I'm not sure Palace ever really got out of second gear, but at the same time, we didn't really trouble them. And like I said, with a couple of players that weren't involved yesterday that would have been last season, we'd have tested them a hell of a lot more, given them a much more of a game.
Probably four players, really, when you think about it, that would have been starters that weren't involved.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, I know it's going over old ground, but, Njai, Doyle, McAtee, Berg, they'd have all started over what we started yesterday. I mean, I don't want to criticise anyone that played yesterday, but that midfield yesterday would have been a weak Championship midfield. To put that out against Palace in your first game of the season, we were. I think as soon as that team sheet come out, we knew that it was going to be a big struggle, And I'll be honest, that team sheet was probably worse than I was expecting.
Just hearing you there say Berg, do you think Sanders' time at Sheffield United is summed up by the fact we never all agreed on how to pronounce his surname?
Yes, probably, and he's probably the one that we could afford to lose, and I think that in a way that summed up his time as well. He was, he was inconsistent, but 100%. Would he have started yesterday? Yes. Would he have had a better impact on what happened yesterday? Almost certainly. But what can we do? Well, all we can hope to do is carry on strengthening. The one that looks like he's coming to replace is, again, would have walked into that team yesterday. So hopefully we see Hamer, if that's how we're going to pronounce it. Hopefully he's going to make a pretty big impact and hit the ground running come Friday.
Our starting 11, can you understand it? I mean, Vinicius, Souza, okay, I get that. But Slimani on the bench, I thought he looked pretty good in pre-season, just my opinion, of course, but he impressed me. Were you surprised that he wasn't involved from the start?
Yeah, and that's what I mean a couple of minutes ago when I said that team sheet yesterday surprised me compared to, we knew we were going to be weaker than we wanted, but I think that was the big one that surprised me. Slimani not starting, like I said, Souza I can understand. He'd only just come in, but I thought Slimani would have got a start. I haven't seen him in pre-season. I didn't manage to watch any pre-season, but listening to people that have, like I said, he sounded impressive, and again, impressive compared to what we put out yesterday. I was very surprised he didn't start.
I agree with that. Let's bring in Ollie, who viewers of the channel will be familiar with. Ollie, welcome back. We all now look very small.
It's a bit realistic then, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we're all small in real life.
Well, we actually are. I think Jono's probably the tallest. What did you make of the game, Ollie?
Yeah, it was a funny one, really, to be honest, because I don't want to put any blame on the players. I don't feel as though it's right for us to put any blame, any criticism towards the players who played yesterday, because they gave everything that they got. I have no doubt that the players who were on that pitch did absolutely everything that they could, but it really just brought home the fact that we've got to get the new players in the squad. You know, Hamo, understandably, can't play, but I did expect to see Slimani. I know Jono was just covering that. And I think that when you saw the midfield and you saw the front two, I really thought it was going to be a lot worse than 1-0. And I think that's testament to the effort, to the sort of fight that those players put forward. But the ability gap, my word, the ability gap, it was just sobering, I think is the term I used. It was really sobering because it felt as though we were chasing shadows for long parts of the game. It felt as though they were faster, they were stronger, and they just seemed to have so much that we didn't. And I know that's not going to be our first team. I know that everything will look very, very different at Forest. But yeah, I thought yesterday was a real eye-opening welcome to the Premier League. And if there's probably 5 players on that pitch who, if they're still playing in our first team or in and around our first team for the rest of the season, I don't see how we do any better than a similar performance to that where we're trying to draw 0-0 because we've got no goals. There's no goals, no creativity in the team that played yesterday.
Wow, strong stuff, stern words, you could argue. I mean, Jono, did you feel Palace were, to a man, more comfortable on the ball, more accomplished, and generally, Jono, did you feel they just look like a side that's, well, like they have been in the Premier League and know what it's all about for far longer?
Yeah, they did. I think Ollie's hit the nail on the head with everything he said there. But in terms of that, yeah, that they were better all over the pitch, man for man, they were better. But also looking, I said probably on the hour mark, they were clever as well. That I know we haven't talked about it yet, but the referee, we don't want to blame the referee because he hadn't affected it much. But every little touch they went down, we were trying to stay on their feet. They just looked, they knew how to play the game. They knew how to kill the game once they'd gone a goal up, and we just didn't have a chance with the team, with the players who are out. The big thing for me was as well that the front two, we had no one to keep the ball up the top. It was all kind of hit it, try and run onto it, try and get in behind. And as much as we're being linked with some of the players that we're being linked with, we need someone at the top. If Ollie McBurney isn't fit to hold the ball as well, because we just couldn't keep hold of the ball. And obviously that starts at the front. And with what we put out yesterday, yeah, we were second best all over the pitch.
Yeah, sadly so. Let's address some of the comments that are coming through. Steve says, I'd like to know where the buck stops for our abysmal transfer policy and pointless pre-season friendlies. Let's deal with that sentence first. So, Ollie, abysmal transfer policy. Do you think the transfers that have been brought in have been abysmal?
No, but I completely understand the question because let's be frank here. Like, by the end of this transfer window, I think we'll look back at it and we'll say that we have got good players in through the door. I think players like Harmer will massively improve, as I believe that Harmer is a step up on Sanderberg. I genuinely think that is the right thing, and I think that we will be a better team as a result of that transfer dealing. But for the first game of the season, and for the team that was out yesterday, it's fair to say there should be an acceptance of a failure of timing, because the fact that we had to play yesterday with a front two of Traore and Asula, the fact that we had to play with a midfield three of Basham, Osborne and Ollie Norwood, that does point to there being a complete failure of timing for how we have done these transfers and how we have got players in the door. So I think that by the end of the window, the policy will be fairly positive. I think we will have brought in good players, and I'm quite happy with the fact that we want to try and buy young with potentially really high upsides. But it is a failure of timing to not have anything in place for the first game of the season and to leave us hamstrung in a winnable game at home with a team like the one that had to play yesterday.
Well, I always like to provide a little bit of balance, as you know. So to counter that, do you think that Paul Heckingbottom, his coaching staff and those further up would have been planning, thinking that we would begin the season when we were talking about on the whiteboard, putting the 11 out there, we'd have had Iliman and Dye, we'd have had Sanderberger, and we'd be adding to that. And then you have Marseille coming in for Iliman and Dye. I believe if Real Madrid and Barcelona had come in for Iliman Ndiaye, he's still playing for Sheffield United. I think it was only Marseille that was going to get him to go. I might be wrong. Sander, what on earth? We don't really know what's going on with Sander, because for me, it's like the way he played football. That was sideways. That's a sideways move going to Burnley, and I don't personally understand it. And the question for me really with Sander is, he was offered a really good contract. Why didn't he sign it? What's made him think? Is it just he wants to change the scenery? And if that is, if it simply came out and said that, I could understand that.
The thing that sticks out for... Sorry, Al.
No, go on, John. No, it's fine.
I'm saying the thing that sticks out for me with Sander is he's, without any, inside knowledge, it sounds like for quite a long time he wasn't going to be signing a contract. So I don't get why we've done it as late as we have. If we knew beginning of pre-season he wasn't going to sign a contract, then for me, if the policy is people that we can make money on, we're not going to keep in the last year of the contract, do it then. Do it at the start of pre-season, so we've got pre-season to go and get Hamer, embed him in the team. And as Ollie said a couple of minutes ago, it's the policy itself I'm not against. Bringing in the players that we brought in, I'm not against. It's the timing to leave us so short 3 days before the season that has cost us 3 points yesterday. Like I said, hopefully in a couple of games' time we're looking a lot stronger, but points are points in the Prem. We can't afford to be throwing points away. So yeah, for me it's the timing. And like I said, with Sander, if he's going to go, get rid weeks ago.
Ollie?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it for me. I think you're right, and I think we will have budgeted, obviously, put Iliman Ndiaye, put Sander Berger in that team, and it looks a lot better than the one that came out yesterday. And so I don't think the blame sits with the coaching staff, the manager who's trying to keep these players around and is built around them through pre-season. But it's like Jono said there, and I think that's exactly it. If we knew they weren't signing contracts, and I know it's slightly different with Iliman because there was that prolonged moment where we all thought he was signing a contract and therefore it all made sense. But for Sander, I've never really seen any indication he was looking like signing the contracts. And if that's the case, then maybe we should have made these moves earlier and so that we could be prepared for the start of the season. Now, like I've said, I think there's still positivity there. I think we will improve. We will get better. The team next Friday will be considerably better than the one that played yesterday. And there is absolutely no doubt in my mind about that question. I thought Sousa, when he came on, actually looked like a physical presence. Like I said before, that they looked bigger, faster, stronger until Sousa came on. And then he suddenly looked like the biggest, strongest person on the pitch because he's massive. And he actually powered through somebody and won ahead of him. And you thought, oh, yeah, all right, he's another step. And so it's about just getting those players in. And like I say, it's not the policy itself, it's the timing. And I think by allowing the Iliman and Sander transfers to drag on all summer to the point of them only happening in the last 10 days or so, that's then where the issues come.
Can you hear us all right, by the way? Let us know in the comments if any of us sound really loud or really quiet. We always appreciate that sort of feedback. Let's just finally finish with this. A pre-season friendly is pointless. I can sort of see that argument. I mean, I wouldn't have arranged those particular friendlies. I'd like some real tests. We got one against Stuttgart, but some of the others were probably quite questionable. However, I'm from a generation that grew up with us playing Matlock and going to Bodmin. So, horses for courses, Ollie.
You say that, Hal, but we say we wanted competitive games. We wanted to play against teams more at our level. Most of them beat us, so let's not get too carried away.
Nobody seems to want to blame anyone and instead just accept the incompetence cause Fwens. I think that's a dig at the fact that we have interviewed the owner of Sheffield United twice on this channel. Of course, whoever the owner of Sheffield United was, we'd have approached them and asked them if we could interview them. I should let you know, we've approached a lot of people and 90% say no. It's also worth noting that at Sheffield United way, and me personally, because I've sort of been around football for a long time, I mean, Nick and I, we've got double figures of sources. However, there is only one that lets us name them. So maybe it's possibly worth considering that if you think that we don't get balanced views. We really do. And Ollie is often sometimes privy to get that kind of information in the background. Let's have a look at some of the other ones. Lerma did cover every patch of grass, didn't he? Gosh, he looks like the kind of signing I'd have loved us to get. I think his wages would have been a problem, Ollie, don't you?
Oh, yeah, his wages would have been a huge issue. I mean, he'll have been paid a lot at Bournemouth. Obviously, this is a move that he would have thought is progress. He's moving upwards. I'm sure he's on a lot of money. And obviously, the other half of that, Eze, I mean, there was a point where their fans started chanting, he's just too good for you. And I was sat in our pit like, Yeah, I get it. Yeah, he is. Might join in. He was just a step above. He's a fantastic player. And
Really is.
yeah, they've got some players in the Premier League. The teams are going to have some of these players that you look at and you go, you know what? Yeah, they are very, very good. And we have to find a way to combat that. And I'm sure we will as the season goes on, especially when we get those new players in and get them embedded in the way that we want to play.
Let me know in the comments what you think about the contract management. The Times wrote an article based on our interview with Prince Abdullah, saying that it hasn't gone down well, the comments he made about leaving players to the last year of their contract. I didn't cast my opinion on that particular policy, and I'm not going to now. I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments. What do you make of the contract management? I suppose if I'm going to play devil's advocate, rather than give an opinion, I could just say, if you've got players that are refusing to sign contracts, but you think they're very good at professional football, it might make sense to try and keep them right up till the end of their contract so that they still play for your team, because that might mean that your team does better. Maybe your team then stays in the Premier League, earning you a great deal more money than if you sell them, go down, and then you can't really compete in the same level the following season.
Yeah, for me, that contract management point, it's something that, it's hard to... I'm not privy to the conversations. I'm not. I don't know what they talked about with Illiman. Don't know what they talked about with Sander. Don't know what they've talked about with any of the players who are currently in the last 12 months. But that's the one thing for me that made me most frustrated, shall we say, is I've got no concern with a policy of selling players when they've got 12 months left to get the maximum value you can out of them rather than letting them go on free. My issue is more, why were they in the last 12 months in the first place? But that's a very different conversation that I don't know anywhere near enough about to actually be able to form a proper opinion, because I'm a nobody and a bit of a fool.
I agree with that. That's the first thing you've said I agree with. By the way, I have no idea how much this is from Michael, but it looks a lot. Thank you very much. So if you do like to support the channel and donate, it really does help us. It's incredibly expensive to do this, and we don't make a lot of money. Loving the content, lads. Keep it up. You think we'll get anything from the Forest game? Jono, you're going to be the one I'm going to throw that question at. Good luck.
I guess it depends on what team we put out. Who we got in before Friday? How much time have they got to settle? If we put out the team that started yesterday, no, probably not. But at least Hamer is going to start, I would imagine, and hopefully a couple more. Maybe. I haven't seen too much of how Forest did yesterday. I know they lost at Arsenal, but a lot of teams will. So, it's going to be a tough game, and it's going to be quite lively, I'd have thought, based on our last visit there. But I'll probably say ask us that on Friday morning when we know more what the team's going to look like. But yeah, if it's the same team as yesterday, then no. Yeah,
maybe Ollie Mack will be back. The ref, John Brooks. Ollie, I always tweet about the referee before each game. I give you the stats. I give you what they're like, if they're card happy, if they give a lot of penalties. Ollie, what did you make of the referee's performance?
There was a moment about halfway through the second half where, and don't get me wrong, I, along with everybody else, was really frustrated. But it felt as though Palace would pass the ball, Traore would run at a defender, would get the ball off the defender, and then they would have a free kick. And that happened about 5 times within about 5 minutes, probably, maybe even less. And you sat there thinking, how is every time we get the ball a foul? He was so picky at every little thing we did. I think Slimani got booked at the end for a fantastic tackle. He definitely got the ball. Got the ball. I just couldn't get my head around some of the decisions he made. I should say, I don't think that had any impact on the game. It didn't affect the result. He didn't have a material impact on the game, on the result. If anything, I thought his impact on actually getting the fans up created a little bit of pressure for us, just for sort of 5 or 10 minutes after that period of foul. United fans were in the game. We were pushing forwards. We didn't create anything, but it at least gave us a little bit of momentum to try and work with. But if they're going to be that picky, and if they're going to give every little soft thing, it's going to be hard watching. It's going to be hard watching if some of those fouls that Palace got yesterday were actually fouls. Like I say, I don't want to go into it too much. Part of the reason I brought up sort of that time yesterday is I said to my dad, this is annoying, but it's hard to be that angry because I don't think, like, we're getting outclassed anyway here. But they've got to find a way to make the game more better than that. And more better is the correct way of pronouncing that in English. Because you can't just be stopping 5 minutes every time somebody tries to win a tackle, because it was just insane. It was just so picky. So picky.
And the instructions this season towards the refs are that it's got to be proper contact. It's got to be a proper foul. It shouldn't be that they're picking up, every little bit. So, yeah, it was frustrating. As Ollie said, it didn't cost us anything yesterday, but the way it seemed very one-sided. A lot of the contact that we made, foul straight away. Chiawe was getting kicked at times, nothing. Frustrating, but yeah, it didn't cost us.
Jono, you're always, and I like to go to you when we talk referees. For those that don't know, Jono refereed at extremely high level. I mean, the man actually refereed John Lundstrom at one point in your career. So Jono knows his stuff when it comes to referees, and I think you often want to see the positives and not necessarily side with referees, but you're not one that's going to just instantly go to jumping down the throat like some fans can. So you can often see why they've made decisions. Do you watch the game now differently to when you were younger before you did any refereeing?
Yeah, I probably do. Like I said, I do try and look at it from, I don't ref now, and things have changed, in the few years that I haven't done it. But yeah, I do try and see it from their point of view. It just seemed inconsistent yesterday. I think that's the word that sticks out. Like I said, there was nothing there that, we can leave the ground saying he costed this or that. And as Ollie said, at one point, I thought it was working in our favour. It almost had the Billy Sharp v Norwich impact that the crowds are getting riled. And I thought if we get an equaliser here, it's because of that. But the recommendations this season towards the refs are that they don't pick up every little kick, every little, it's got to be proper fouls. And he didn't seem to follow that yesterday. And that's a frustrating thing. Like I said, stopping the game every 30 seconds. It just stopped any flow, but it didn't cost us anything yesterday. Yeah,
let's go positives. Ollie, I'm going to throw some names at you because I like to be positive. Brooks, Asula, he is so cooler. Baldock, always given 100%. I mean, Asula had a curling effort early on in the first half as we were shooting towards the cop, so he must have lost the toss. And then he had a side netting shot later, which was good technique. I am trying to pick positives. Ollie, what were your positives?
My positives, I think defensively, they didn't create loads. Don't get me wrong, because we were under pressure for as much as the game as we were, because we couldn't really get and hold the ball. It meant that there was a lot of pressure coming onto our back line. But I do think that we can hold that line. I'm quite comfortable and happy with our back five, with our back six, if you want to include the wing backs. And I quite like that. So I think the positives are that we know that defensively we can compete. We can keep teams out, even teams with really good, technical, skillful players. Last time we played Palace, I remember Eze getting the ball in the middle of his own half, walking through our entire team and scoring at the other end. He didn't do that this time. We have strengthened up a little bit in our one-on-one defending, and I thought that we can focus on that back line as a unit and say that they are a group that are ready for the step up. And I think they're a really positive that I can focus on and say teams aren't going to come and batter us. Like, even in games where we are outclassed going forwards, nobody's going to come and batter us with that defence in place. So for me, there's a lot of positives coming out of how strong we can be in that side. I think seeing the young lads get game time, that's great. It is fantastic. I'm really happy to see that there is a pathway for players to come through from our academy, get them in the first team. I don't believe at this stage, for example, that Asula, I like him. I think Asula is going to make a player, but he should be on loan in League One. Quite frankly, that's where he should be this season, building up his confidence, building up his sort of skills, and just getting used to playing in the men's game, because he's not played a lot of games of football. That's his first start for Sheffield United, and it's in the Premier League. And that, to me, it's a real positive to see players coming through, but it's not also, it's tinged with the negative of we shouldn't have to put Asula in that position. It was nice to see him have a couple of really positive efforts. I thought that one where it was sort of a snapshot second half, the one that went into the side netting, it was great to see, because we don't generally shoot first time. We're not a team that it bounces to us on the edge of the box and we smack it towards goal. So it's nice to see those kind of instincts, but I just feel as though maybe it'd be better if we could get him out on loan and give him the chance to properly develop, because I think he's going to make a player. I really
He's going to make a player.
He's got all the attributes.
He has. He needs a goal. Confidence will help him. He's a unit, though. He's certainly stronger physically than Traore, who looks very lightweight. He looks very busy, but even when you see him with the shirt on, there's not a lot of bicep clinging to the sleeve. He's going to need to bulk up, I think, for the Premier League, which is really probably the toughest when it comes to a league of physicality, certainly along with some of your other major leagues in Europe, but it's possibly is number one because they really do get stuck in. And when we talk about positives there, it's also worth remembering that we lost 1-0 and Palace had 2 goals disallowed. And it could have been, with you look at their XG as well, over 2, it could have been a different story. And actually, I think another positive, Jono, that I'll throw in here is Wes. What did you make of his performance? And then any other positives you want to bring to me?
Yeah, I'd about to say I thought Wes had a decent game, especially second half. He made a couple of really good saves. I think the one that worried me slightly with him was the first goal that was offside, the shot from distance that he just parried onto Ayew's head pretty much. But after that, he did grow into the game. Like I said, it was quite constant that he was going to have to be quite busy. So, yeah, I thought he had a good game. Other positives, I think Traore grew into the game. I think that the more the game went on, he was looking a bit more positive. Bulldog as well, yeah, but Bulldog, it was a Bulldog performance. I'm just slightly concerned with the last couple of minutes. He was injured. The fact that he didn't go down, walk off, I hope that's a good sign and not just Bulldog battling through.
It's a bulldog performance. It
was
so tough.
Yeah, it was. He was the one that at times were driving us forward, and some of the stuff he did on right in their corner flag, kind of challenging, and yeah, it was a performance that you get from him. But we've got to hope that it's just cramp and nothing more, because that's another name on the list to replace if it is anything serious. But there were positives yesterday. Like I said, the biggest positive, like I said, 1-0 against an established Premier League team that they haven't torn us apart. It could have been a lot worse. So no, there were positives, and I'm sure get the business done that we're looking at doing, and we'll be all right.
All right. Well, just on that, Jono, I mean, Bean the Blade says, how many more players do you think we need to be competitive? I think at least 4. How many spaces are there left? Ollie, how many spaces are there left, actually? Do you know this? Do you know the answer to this
4.
in the squad?
I think we've got 21, haven't we?
I thought Heyman might have taken up that, but we might have 3. It might be 4. I'll need to have a look at the squad list. But yeah, there's not that many spaces left if they're over the certain age. But Jono, how many more players do you think we need to be competitive to answer that?
I'm going to say minimum. I'd say 4. I think we need attacking mid. We need striker. We need another midfielder. There's 3 straight away. I know I've just praised Wes. Part of me would like to see another keeper come in. Whether that's not necessarily to take the number 1, but to challenge more. But I don't think we're going to have that space for it. I think probably keeper-wise, we're going to be what we've got. But like I said, the thing I said earlier, we need. I know we keep being linked with a certain type of forward. I know Cameron Archer's been linked, who I like the look of. But I think we need some more strength up top as well. So for me, I'd be looking at not quite big man, little man, but kind of 2 strikers, then potentially an attacking mid and another centre mid at least. So, I mean, there I've given you 4. We mentioned a keeper, so maybe my answer's 5. But as much as we can, we just need to keep strengthening to the best that we can with the space in the squad. But
remember, there's loans available, right? So there's overseas loans. We can bring in many more there. We can bring in domestic loans. We might look at some of your big boys. Your Man Cities, your Man Uniteds, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we'll go abroad as well and bring in some attacking talent. Maybe we'll get a keeper on loan. We don't know what the thinking is at the moment. Ollie, do you want to give your thoughts on that question? And also, are you going to back Wes?
That sums up the question of whether or not I'm going to back Wes. It's one of them where I like Wes, but I thought he had moments yesterday. Like, for example, the first offside goal.
Yeah.
That just flags immediate alarm bells in my mind of, oh dear. And I mean,
the goal. Are you blaming Wes for that one?
Yes.
More than anyone else?
Yeah, probably.
For me, so I'm Bromley upper. For me, tip that over. It's come from distance. Don't parry it back out. He's put it into the danger zone. But so for me, it come from long enough that he can get that over. So like I said, he did go into the game. He had a good second half. But if that goal had stood, that blame was on Wes 100%. If that's a goal, that's Wes's fault.
Yeah,
And
I do
are we
agree.
to finish the question about how many more players we need to be competitive? I don't want to pile in on Wes here.
No, of course, and definitely not, because that's not fair to Wes, because he's been a great player for us. I don't want to pile in on him either. I just thought that, that is clearly an area where we could upgrade, is all I would say. I would say from the team that played yesterday, we need at least 6, but we've got some of those players already in the squad. So I think in terms of new signings, 4 to me seems like a good target. I think we've got the 3 midfielders that we would want. So I think you'd want your attacking midfielder, another striker. I'd like another body to come in that's going to cover us across for another midfielder, and then potentially the goalkeeper. So
okay, so I've just sort of thought in my head who could maybe, some of the names that are being already rumoured. As you know, at Sheffield United way, we don't leak transfer rumours. We give you updates on things that someone else has already thrown out there. And you'll see that actually on Twitter, when we do a thread on players, it's always players that someone else has already been speaking about. And we just go on the rumours. So let's look at concerns. I'm going to throw some words out. And Jono, I want your response to those words. John Egan, the midfield, goals.
John Egan he didn't have the best of games yesterday. I'm not overly worried about Egan. Again, I'd say, have we got the backup to challenge him in terms of a central defender? At the moment, we could move kind of an L centre, I guess. But yeah, he didn't have the best of games yesterday. Midfield, we've covered it. If that was our midfield for the rest of the season, yeah, we'd be struggling. But I'm confident, hopefully not blind confidence, that will not be our midfield for much longer. With players coming in and players we've already got in, I think that will change. Goals is the big one for me. It's even the players that we're bringing in, are they creative enough themselves and with the strikers that we've got available? We struggled last time under Wilder. We didn't get that many goals. It was a lot of 1-0s, and if we do that this season, it will do the job, because, like I said, defensively, I think we are decent. But yeah, goals is the big one. A, scoring them, and B, creating them. That's the hardest part of football, and that's what we're lacking the most at the moment. So
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I actually don't necessarily know if it's a striker. I think it's the word creativity. And in pre-season, I constantly was saying, we're not creating much.
No,
and our XG was really low yesterday, and it would have been. I didn't look at XG. I don't really care about XG, but I didn't really look at it in pre-season. But it just felt like, because I'm old school, I'm an eye test guy. I like to just watch and feel, and I'm not good at these graphs and stuff. But Jono, do you feel it is creativity? That's the number one. So actually, if we could only bring in 2 or 3 players, the next one has to be that attacking midfielder. That's someone, that spark. That's if you've lost Ndai, you've lost McAtee. Is that where it's going to have to be?
Yeah, I think creativity is the thing that's jumping out the most for me. We have got strikers that can score, but they need to be given the chance. And yeah, creativity for me, it's that attacking mid that I want to see the most. Like I said, McAtee last season and Jai, I know he was playing more striker, but they could create stuff. They could run at people, create space. That for me is our biggest area at the moment that we might struggle.
Well, Jimmy from Blade Ramble has asked Chupa Akpom or Cameron Archer-Hall. If I could only choose one, I would go Archer. Jono, if you could only choose one?
I would go Archer. However, I wonder whether, and he's not a big target man, but I wonder if the size and strength of Akpom is maybe what we need slightly more. But if it was a straight who would I rather have, I would rather have Archer.
I can see that, because I've just mentioned Traore's lack of physicality, but I'm hoping that Ollie McBurney will provide more of that. Archer is a pace man, so he's a ball over the top or in behind, and maybe we've already got pacey players.
We've got pacey players. I think Archer is potentially better than the pacey players we've got. However, McBurney is our only, I'd say, physical presence up there, and we've already seen he's not going to be fit every game. So if he's not fit, and then we're trying to play 2 pace men, We're still missing out on something
Warnock
up there.
would never have gone for two
No.
pacey strikers, would he? And I think Webber and Cabba would have worked, but that's just me. Ollie, Chuparak, Pomor, Archer. Do you want the guy who's through his career not necessarily been prolific, but recently has, or Cameron Archer, who's never scored a goal in the Premier League?
Cameron Archer all day long, twice on a Sunday. That's all, not even a question for me. If you'd asked me at the start of the summer, you can have one player that United are going to sign from last year's championship. I wanted Cameron Archer. I think he's outstanding. I think he's got all of the attributes that we are lacking. I know we've talked about how we've got some pacey strikers. We've not got pace and power that Cameron Archer brings. He is a different level of player compared to a lot of what we've got up front, particularly those behind Ollie Mack, who are vying for that sort of second role when Ollie Mack's injured. Just head and shoulders for me, Cameron Archer.
Good question. Please feel free to pop more questions in. Statsman Adam has said a midfield of Osborne, Basham and Norwood is like driving a Ford Fiesta in a Grand Prix. Reliable, will give it all, but simply not going to hold its own over the course. Will cause some problems for faster cars now and then, but ultimately only one winner for the duration. Occasionally the Grand Prix car will crash out, giving success to the Fiesta, but more often not.
What more can we say? What more can we
You
say?
can't, Johnny, quite right. You can't add anything to that. Not sure it even needed to be said in the first place. I was disappointed. I'll be honest. I was a little bit disappointed with Anel for the goal, and I was disappointed with his yellow card. It's like petulance like that could be costly in this league. One of the things I also said on the Gustavo Hamer video that I did was that he's played in the championship and his aggression hasn't been picked up on too many times. But I think in the Premier League with card-happy referees, that could be a problem. So strength in depth, I think, is going to be needed. And if Hamer is going to get suspended for a little time, we're going to need players that are ready-made that can come in and take that spot. We've already spoken quite a bit about that. So what about man of the match? I don't want an overall man of the match. This is Sheffield United way. I want, Ollie, a Sheffield United man of the match.
Baldock, I think. Baldock looked like himself. He looked like somebody who was putting everything he got. I think there's not loads to choose from, if we're being honest, not in a disrespectful way, but it's very much it can't really be any of the midfield because we couldn't get hold of the ball. It's difficult to choose a striker when you've not had a single chance really in 90 minutes. I think Baldock was the one who most exemplified what we're going to be trying to do. And I think he gave a performance that you'd say, yeah, that is the George Baldock performance, but we've talked about him already, but he's my answer.
Johnny?
Yeah, probably same. In terms of who did the best for us, then probably Baldock. If it was going to be someone that maybe surprised me a bit more and offered more than I thought they would, maybe Asula. But overall, no, I couldn't pick him in man of the match. I think Baldock certainly gave a Baldock performance and one that I expected. But yeah,
is there nothing to be said for Ben Osborne?
No.
You know what? I know there was some criticism for him from yesterday. I thought he did what he did. He did what he could. I don't want him to be starting.
No,
rarely at all. But there was effort. He was over the pitch. He did what I would want him to do if he was having to play for a few minutes.
Yeah, let me just. I said a lot about United at the start, and I said there's no criticism for anybody. Everybody acted within their own limitations, and nobody summarises that better than Ben Osborne. Ben Osborne puts in more effort than anybody else on the pitch. He tries hard. He's always running. He's always working. And I will never personally criticise Ben Osborne for what he gives United, because he gives everything he's got at every opportunity. He cannot help the fact that he is limited. And that's the player that he is. You can't ask him to do a job that he's not got the skill set to do. And so while, we joke, and I will joke through the season about Osborne, and quite frankly, I don't think he should be in our squad right now. I don't think he should be, shouldn't be in our team to be playing games.
You don't think he should be in the entire squad? A squad that we've already said is threadbare.
I just think he doesn't really offer much. I think I like him. I really like him as a person. I really like him for the effort he puts in. I want him to be successful. I want him to be better with the ball. I want him to have I want him to be able to offer something for United because I feel as though he deserves the chance to. But for me, he's just so limited that it's really difficult to see what he's bringing to us on the pitch beyond that energy and enthusiasm and effort. And there's a lot to be said for that, but it's just a case of we need a better ability to be able to compete. And that's what yesterday really showed.
All right.
And I don't want to, it's not his fault. I don't want to blame him for it, but that's where I think we sit with players like Osborne.
Have we even any chance of getting Cameron Archer? Adam asks. Yes. Also, this is an interesting one. I think Osborne is a lot better as a wing back than a midfielder. I mean, Ollie, Max Lowe, Larouci, Osborne. What's your left wing back preference? Reece Norrington Davis, we're not hearing anything about his comeback. You do not want to get a hamstring injury on duty for Sheffield United because it's like in the old days when someone would cough and you go, oh, bless you. I'm not going, just, oh, no. Oh, he's coughed. It's a disaster at Sheffield United. You don't want to get a hammy injury because it does seem to be much longer. What I mean with the cough is, like when you're watching a TV series and someone goes, you're like, oh, no. That's it. And in real life, when someone coughs, you just crack on. But anytime on a movie, TV series, anything set in the old days, that's it. They are. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Osborne at left wing back?
Yeah, I'm not against it. I think, look, I've just given my wider thoughts on Osborne. I do think that left wing back allows you to hide some of his limitations. I think what it gives you is it means that actually the energy for covering forwards and back is really important. If you're playing the left wing back role, it does suit his skill set a little bit better. And with his left foot, he can cross the ball. It's one of the things he can do is he can deliver across, and therefore maybe left wing back is better suited to him. For me right now, I thought Max Lowe had some questionable moments at the start of the game yesterday, but I thought he grew into the game and got a little bit better as we went on. I think it's his shirt. I've not been overly impressed with what I've seen of Larouci so far. I think that he's got some development to do.
We're going with Larouci.
I've gone with Larouci, yeah.
We're going with Larouci. John, are you nailing your colours to the Larouci or Larouci mast?
Yeah, I would more Larouci, but what do I know?
What do I know? I pronounce things wrong every single video.
I'm going to change. Next time you see me talking, it'll be Larouci, and then it'll be Larouci.
I've already said
every time.
I'm calling him Jeffrey all season, and I am.
So I think Jeffrey's going to do all right. I think he's got to develop to come into the team a little bit more. I think there's some question marks about him, sort of defensively in particular. So for me, Max Lowe's shirt at the minute, I'm not against the idea of Ben Osborne deputising in that position. I think the reason he is in the squad is that he can play a range of different positions, and that is one of the strings to his bow. And let's be honest, if Baldock is injured, Bogle's injured forever, there might be a chance he's playing right wing back, never mind left.
Yeah, these injuries, honestly, we are so unlucky. Last season, I thought was a joke with injuries. Are we going to have a season like this? We don't know what's going on with Daniel Jebison. You hear Hecky say he's not going to be out for too long, so I'm putting that down as at least 3 months. But you've just got no idea. So Palace, we should talk about Palace briefly before we go because they were also in this game. I always called him Ebere, but everyone's now calling him Eberiche. Eze, what are you going with, Jono?
Eberiche.
Right, fine.
Sounds posh.
It sounds really posh. He created 7 chances against the Blades, the most in a Premier League game for Crystal Palace since Jason Puncheon against Sunderland in 2016. 8 chances. Absolutely amazing. I think the idea was Basham was going to do a job on him. I think that's probably why Basham was there. Well, that didn't work. By the way, if you're interested, Jason Puncheon is, I wouldn't say my next door neighbour, but he lives very close to me. The road. That's a weird stat. And then I thought I'd throw that in. Palace, Ollie, thoughts, brackets, feelings, brackets, reflections.
Palace are what Palace are, I think. And I know that sounds like a ridiculous statement, but it's one of those where, you come into the Premier League, Palace are your quintessential, we will finish somewhere between the positions of 11th and 13th. And that's exactly what I thought they looked like. I thought they looked big, strong and powerful. I thought they got legs in midfield that were outstanding against us yesterday. I thought they were bigger physically and stronger than us. And I think in Eze, they've really got a player who has got some X factor that will just, against every team in the division, he will cause you problems. I think they've still got Elise out injured at the minute, but if he comes back into the team as well, that gives them another player capable of doing that same kind of role. So I think Palace are what you will strive to be. If you're a team coming into the Premier League and you want to start to organise yourselves and you want to be staying in the Premier League for an extended period, you have to base your structure on somebody like Palace, because they've built what is the perfect team to never be in a relegation battle. They will always be just about comfortable. They're not going to be in trouble. Now, there's a question on ambition, and there'll be a question on, does that excite you long term? Do you want to be a team who's just finishes 11th? You don't have any excitement above you. You don't have any excitement below you. You just finish 11th. Over a long period of time, that's probably not what teams want. It's not what fans are going to strive for, but I'd take it right now. And so I think you would look at them as sort of the blueprint and say, if you want to compete and be out of trouble, build a team like the one they've got, because I just thought they looked steady, strong, and comfortable.
Steady Eddie, the Eagle. Jono, we said at the start that our team, our regular first choice, fully fit team in the Championship last season, would have given that Palace side a real game. Now, they only beat Sheffield United 1-0. If you're a Palace fan, do you look at that and say that's possibly the weakest Sheffield United side that's been put out for 3 years, and we only beat them 1-0? Are they actually not going to be as jubilant as perhaps Ollie's suggesting there, and maybe slightly concerned longer term in the season when they come up against the big boys?
Potentially. I think if, not wanting to sound like sour grapes, but yeah, when I saw that team sheet, I thought they might do a 3-4 here. The fact that they've only come away with 1-0, will that worry them? I'd counter that though and potentially say, did they ever actually get out of second gear? I'm not sure they did. They had 2 disallowed. I don't think they'll be overly concerned. They got the win. They did what they needed to do without us testing them. So if we had got one back, could I have seen them stepping up again? Probably. So yeah, I think our team last season would have given them a better game, but I think they had more to show than what they did yesterday. But yeah, in Eze and Lerma really impressed me yesterday more than I thought he would. So they have got players that on their day they will test people. So yeah, I wouldn't be overly concerned if I was a Palace fan with only 1-0. Like I said, I think they had a lot more to give than what they did yesterday.
Yeah, well, I've really appreciated both of you joining us for this. For what it's worth, I will just say I thought Max Lowe hitting Roy in the stomach was really poor form. I didn't have a lot of time for that, and I thank all of you though for giving up your time. It's been like Sunday supplement. I feel like I should have had a coffee. I should maybe have had some papers strewn around and maybe some pastries, but we'll do that next time. Jono, thank you very much. Really appreciate your thoughts. Ollie, as always, you are a joy, a treat, and a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, Hal. Always enjoy it. Let's just hope that when we do this next week or when we're next chatting, it's about a very different looking Sheffield United team.
Yeah, quite agree. Thanks everyone for watching.